My name is Mark Lusted. I'm MD of Doc9. I'm delighted to be joined today by Jon Hall, who is Deputy CEO and Chief Commercial Officer of Masthaven Bank. Jon and I were due to catch up over lunch last week, but unfortunately, in the current situation, had to take a bit of a rain check on that. So I thought I'd try and rebook a slot in Jon's diary and have a bit of a catch up over Zoom to get his thoughts on the future of digital banking and fintech. So Jon, welcome. I really appreciate your time today.
Hi, Mark.
How are things going from a personal perspective?
So I think I'm certainly seeing a lot more people than potentially I was seeing before, but they tend to be over Zoom, or we're also introduced workplace and workplace chat in the office as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, on a very personal level, obviously I'm talking to you from a very sunny Hertfordshire.
Nice.
I think we're certainly seeing the inside of people's houses a lot more. Yours looks very stylish, I have to say.
Yeah, comment about the artwork. It's actually my wife. She owns the kind of art part. So yeah,
well, she's done a cracking job. I think I've kind of converted one of the bedrooms at the back of our house. It used to be a bedroom with a desk, and now my wife is sort of saying it's more like an office with a bed.
Yes.
Which is quite helpful. But in fact, there's a bit of a theme coming through in terms of joy of basketball that goes through the family as well. So
basketball in your spare time?
yeah, well, I do follow it. Miami Heat. When we used to travel. Do you remember those days?
Yes.
Yeah, a long time ago. When we used to think about kind of jumping on a plane and going somewhere. And there were sports to watch as well. You know, that didn't date back to kind of, I don't know, when Alan Shearer was playing up front for Newcastle or anything like that, which is we're seeing a lot more of these days. But from a working from home perspective, I think you know it's very full on. You know, if you're making this work properly, I think you know you're hitting the desk relatively early. You've lost the travel time, which is fantastic. You know, it has to be a good couple of hours a day. The question is, what do you do with that? And as much as possible, I'm trying to make sure that you know you kind of stick to a routine. You know, you maybe kind of use your hour a day for exercise, and you take what you previously were doing on a tube or a train, or in a car, and you kind of do it out on the road. You go for a run, or you kind of at least do something to get yourself away from the desk, because I think otherwise you could quite easily spend 12 hours in front of a screen, you know, with your kind of AirPods or whatever on, and you don't see the outside world. And I think that's the bit that can be quite challenging on a human level. And also just, you know, there's quite a few people at the moment within the business that, and I'll touch on how Masthaven is doing it, that are, you know, that maybe they live at home, or they live on their own. And they're now not getting into see that much of the social reaction, and I think you just need to make sure you keep in touch with people like that are in that way, and just kind of, you know, just keep that connection going, which I think is important.
Yes, that's really interesting. But so if we flip to sort of Masthaven then, so you know, a lot of companies had business continuity plans of, you know, if everyone had to, in case of pandemic, everyone had to switch remotely, and I guess a lot of us probably never thought that the day would come where everyone has to work remotely. I mean, how was that transition for Masthaven?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think if we'd have turned around in January and said to our board, you know what, we're going to run a business continuity that looks like this, and try and do it, and they would have, they wouldn't have, they'd have kind of gone, really. But I do think I'm a big believer in necessity is the mother of invention. I'm sure that quote has never been more true. We did, in a very short number of weeks, do something that if you'd have set out to do it with all of the governance of a of a full drawn out kind of program, it would have taken a number of months. But you know, Masthaven's 190 people. So we the first thing we did was we started to move people off site ahead of any lockdown, with a view to it being inevitable that it was going to come. And we stood up probably about 100 people outside of the office, whilst we still had our premises in London. We also stood up a satellite site in Reading, which was there mainly to coordinate any customer contact that we needed to make sure was joined up. So there's about 10 people were opened up in an office in Reading. covering savings, mortgages, and borrower servicing as well. And that was quite key for us. And then at the point at which lockdown kind of was announced on the Monday, as an exco, we were having an exco meeting at 10 o'clock at night, after Boris had given the kind of all of the details. We had it set up to send a BCP text to everybody's mobile across Masthaven that says, those of you that will be still going into London tomorrow, and there was 12, we will get in touch with you individually. Everybody else, you're in remote working position. So we very quickly went to a situation whereby we had only 12 people in London, 10 people in Reading, and 170 odd people kind of working kind of remotely and joined up. We'd gone through a process whereby we'd already identified the absolutely critical business processes that the bank had to fulfill. We tested all of those, and therefore we had a high confidence level around being able to operate remotely. And then what we've also done is said, over the last couple of weeks, we've closed down the London site. So there's nobody kind of operating out of London. So there's a further 12 people remotely. And next week, we're also testing, closing down the Reading site for a week, so that we can confirm that everybody across the bank has been able to operate remotely. And we've been able to, we're monitoring obviously call activity and drop rates, hits to the website. We're completing loans across the entire breadth of our lending range. And whilst we've had to change some of the working practices, we've certainly been able to kind of prove the whole end-to-end of the bank, and especially when you are a bank, clearly, we've had to maintain regular contact with our regulatory stakeholders, keep them informed. We stood up and still operating a daily exco meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning every day, to share information, daily MI across the bank, on a dashboard, so that we can kind of go, well, this is what the technology situation is, this is how our colleagues are in terms of who's in and who's not, here's the lending profile, and customer contact. So you can quite quickly go, actually that's a hotspot at the moment, or most things are kind of managed under control, and you just have the ability to have a joined up view across the bank by having all of the exco on a call every day, and join up the thinking across the bank, really.
I guess you probably had a few particular challenges, obviously, from as a lender, for your mortgage, etc. During this transition to remote working, you probably had a huge spike in calls, I'd imagine, from borrowers and with queries, etc. As a particular challenge.
Yep.
And from a big part of the lending business around relationships, BDMs, they kind of go out on the road and speak to people, etc. How's that kind of changed, the BDM's role at the moment? Are they using Zoom and video calls with brokers and things like that?
Yeah, I think, we run a 3 times a week, 11 o'clock slot with our whole business, where we basically say, let's have a coffee together. Yeah. And on one of them last week, I interviewed Rob Barnard, who's our director of intermediaries. And I said to Rob, this is probably, I'm sure, Rob, you've had many crises before, which I think he took quite personally. But I think certainly this crisis, compared to the global financial crisis of 2008, obviously completely different. That was very much a kind of tightening of liquidity, but outside of that, clearly, the kind of the population were still operational, if you like, whereas this is dislocated in the total end-to-end part of our kind of our lives, our lives, and so we've had to respond in lots of different ways. The thing I'm proud of is that Masthaven have remained open for business in terms of our lending products. Yes, we've made some kind of fine tunes to make the product range more simple. So we've taken certain products off the shelves and concentrated on what truly is the kind of core of the range. But fundamentally, we've still got a proposition. We've got a lending product in all of our markets. The biggest key thing we've had to look at is valuation. Services, obviously, valuers are by exception going out to properties, and generally only when they're vacant. So we've had to respond to that.
You're doing have you looked at sort of desktop valuation?
Yeah, we do. So that's what we do. So now we've always used automated valuation models on our mortgage side, first and second charge. We were looking at using them on the bridging side, and we've accelerated that and brought that product through. So for the first time now over the last few weeks, we've been taking AVMs on bridging. To a particular LTV, and that's been well received. We will use drive-bys on bridging as well, and then ultimately, if we can do full valuations, and they still are needed, we'll use those. And we have reused valuations from other lenders who have no longer been in the market, but the borrowers have come to us. If they obviously, you calibrate them against the current market, but you can reuse what's already been done. So wherever possible, our BDMs are working from home. They're in touch every day with the brokers that are operational, and they're working very well to kind of be flexible in the market, so that where business is there to be done, and we're able to support the kind of the real lending market in terms of the UK that's still going on. The other thing I'm proud of is the way in which we moved resource to support borrower contact. As you've said, it's a really concerning time for a number of people at the moment. And when a customer wants to reach out to their lender around something as sensitive as a payment freeze, they want to know they're going to get heard, that they're not going to get stuck in a queue, that it's not a press 1, press 2, and they get to speak to a real person. And we've moved a number of people across to our servicing team. We train them up on handling the customer calls in the first instance. Some of them are our BDMs. So John Sturgis, who's our head of sales, he's been operating, he lives in Reading, he's been operating in the Reading office. And he's been working with the servicing team to coordinate calls taken by our BDMs in the first instance. They've been trained to handle those contacts. And it just means that we can keep on top of the flow of process that we need to do, but do it in a controlled way. And I think that's, that for me, it's about the ability to flex and have a workforce who are prepared to go, you know what, I'm really glad I'm still working. It's a great opportunity to learn different skills, and I want to move across and I want to help. And that's meant we've handled. We monitor the call rates. We've picked up every customer that's been in touch with us. We've registered their initial inquiries where they've followed it up and said, yes, I want a payment holiday or payment freeze, as they're called. We've registered all of those, and we're managing that process through. And despite the fact we've made changes to our systems went live in a very short space of time in terms of our MI that backs all of that up. It's a full kind of end-to-end process change we've had to do at very short notice under quite a lot of pressure. And I'm very proud of the people that that worked on all of these areas, and I think you get some real stars. You get you do get some people that really kind of go, this is fantastic as an opportunity, and really throw themselves into it.
Sounds good. Sounds like you're adapting well. So I guess was it last August you opened a new office in the city? I came to your
July. It was July in Longacre in Covent Garden.
We moved to ours in Liddell. And,
just after, wasn't it?
So we both got nice swanky new offices in the city, empty at the moment. So it's a bit of a shame, but I'm sure we're back.
That we're paying for. I haven't applied for a rent rebate. I don't know about you, Mark. I think we're
not been so. I think we'll see where we get to with that. And I guess hopefully it's not gone too long, and we can get back people in soon. But I guess, given that we've got those, the big part of those office moves, from our perspective, I can't talk for you, was around creating, these great open plan work areas, breakout areas, really creative spaces for people to collaborate. How have you got any tips from your perspective on, I guess from a business collaboration point of view, but also from a team culture perspective? You're a fast growing organisation. Have you got any tips on how you have managed to kind of keep the team culture together at this time?
Yeah, I think. We we've put a lot of effort into the staff engagement, the culture. Andrew and I, when we started the bank, we set out to make sure we interviewed everybody that was joining the bank, as much to give the people that were joining a sense of what the culture was and what they would be expected to bring. And actually, we've been very, very kind of proud of that, of that level of engagement from our colleagues. And it was always whenever you look at, do we want to be on one site? Do we want to be on a number of sites? It was always that thing that said, no, we need to be in one place. And we need to kind of feel, what we do as what we do as a bank. In reality, I think that that this has been an opportunity to test that. The ways in which we work around it is we're very insistent that our managers are conducting their performance reviews, their one-to-ones, face-to-face like this. I think Zoom, and as I said, we use Workplace and Workplace chats from Facebook as other ways of collaborating. It's much more kind of instant messaging and kind of builds up a kind of connection across the bank. But using Zoom or using Google Hangouts or whatever the visual mechanism is, has been vital. So as I said earlier, as an exco, we meet every day. 3 times a week, we have a total business Zoom call, which has about 130, 140 people typically, and kind of coming in. We talk to our colleagues about what's going on. We use Slido alongside that, which means that as they're thinking, they can put questions in anonymously, which we answer there and then. We use an intranet as a place of resources so people can know where we're changing policy. And I think it's almost weird now when you actually call somebody. It's almost like, I much prefer to go. Was a little bit quirky at the start to kind of press the video button in the corner and go, and all of a sudden you're in could be somebody's bedroom. But you kind of, it just keeps that connection going. Sorry?
I was saying, especially important at the moment. So people can't leave the house. Having that human face-to-face contact.
Yeah, I think with productivity. Yes, we have seen it. I do think it's affected. I think in different areas, in some areas, as I say, in terms of servicing customers, I think we're over 100% productivity. I think we're not at all. In mortgage process, we're not going to say that we can be as productive when the whole you're doing 10% of housing transactions this week compared to a normal week, or 50% of document production is being shown on Mortgage Brain, or even higher for the specialist sector in terms of the reduction in kind of demand. So to a degree, productivity fits out in time to the level of business that you've got to deal with. And I do think that over time, it probably equalizes at a level which is not what you would get if you were all together and all face to face. But I think if your leadership team, if your managers are proactive, they connect with their people, then you can manage that. And I think that fundamentally is kind of what you do. And we use digital media to be online with quizzes or games, or you bring a difference to it. I think it helps that we are we're clearly a digital bank, as you said at the outset. I think it helps because we're used to communicating with people in that way. All of our savings customers end to end are already online. The maturity processes they go through are online also. So by exception, we're kind of dealing with calls, but it's a totally digital service. Lending, when people come in our mortgage system, they go into a portal as well. And obviously since we've worked together to launch the short-term, the portal, the front-end portal, and the new intermediary website, it means that our bridging brokers can also use that technology solution any time of the day or night to put a deal to us, ask for a credit decision, and know that we'll respond to them in that portal, rather than have to rely on print or post or fax, well, who uses fax, or scan or whatever it might be. It all happens in that portal. And I think, it's not why we did it. We did it for to give brokers speed of certainty of decision, quality in terms of the MI that they're able to draw out of their own cases, and to spend more time with their customers, with their clients. But it's actually been it's been an absolute phenomenal blessing for us, particularly. That means that it's there digitally, and it means you don't have to think about, are we receiving post, are we sending post. All the communications are being done digitally, which is fantastic. And we've had close to 100 new brokers sign up since we went to whole of market in February. And application flows are considerably up as well in February and in March, and we've held that level in April as well, despite the challenges.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and I do put it down to obviously some of it's about the disruption in the market, but I also put it down to the fact we're easy to contact, and we've got a slick service that people can kind of go. Doesn't take long. It doesn't take a lot of data. It's easy to register. They get fulfilled in terms of every day. We're making sure that where there's a referral to us for a credit decision, every day we're responding in our service levels to that. And it just means that they've got some confidence that where things matter to them, and particularly at the moment where it's important that deals get progressed, there's good communication, you complete on things that you said you were going to do, because at the end of the day, these we're all businesses, and we all kind of need to have satisfied customers and earn some income, and it's important that we do that, and that portal is definitely a key part to that at the moment.
Cool. So I guess that was February that launched to market. I think soft launched before, but again, that seems like a different world away. It wasn't that long ago, but very well timed, I guess, in hindsight. Do you want to give there was some unique functionality in that portal, specifically around within the bridging space, offering automated DIPs for the kind of partial, more sort of vanilla cases. That's quite unique. Do you think that's going to become a bigger part of the market in the future?
Yeah, I do. I think I don't know if you can hear my dog barking downstairs. That's something I do get used to.
Out there as well, so it's fine.
They can talk. Yeah, they can talk to each other. So I do think that more people will look at where more firms, both lenders and brokers, will look at where their concentrations have been through this period, and we'll think about resilience much more. And realize that actually, we have to have technology is a great way of becoming more resilient, and offering a more secure and repeatable and confident service. I think people before have been a bit concerned about how technology would land in the bridging market, particularly. I think it's all about, a lot of it's about speed of response. It has a relatively low conversion rate, because it's there's a lot of dropout through an inquiry process for a bridging loan, and therefore if you've got clunky systems that require you to give lots of information that you might not have at that time to get a decision, then it's kind of not particularly helpful. And I think the fact that we went through the process of the kind of user testing that we did, and the observational testing that we did with people was just fantastic. And actually I think that the fact that we now, as you say, got those features that say it's very easy to put information in, touch, and use iPad, use iPhone as well as laptops, and and actually it pre-populates a lot of stuff. It provides an automated yes, or it refers, and you then can also request for it to go for a credit decision, to get certainty if that's what you want up front. You can produce your regulatory, your ESIS, for your client straight away. It looks good, it's branded, it gives confidence, and then when you do want to carry that application forward, the data's already there. You don't have to rekey it. So from that perspective, it's much more efficient. And I think that it's the the thing that has worked is actually to spend time kind of in the market. Obviously, we've been in bridging now since 2004, so you kind of understand the the kind of slight nuances, the behavioural side that you want to try and encourage, and also having very good broker partners that are prepared to test your systems, and very clearly tell you when it doesn't work, and then you can't be overly arrogant and go, no, 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 we know best. Well, we don't. And I think, you know, we've done that testing process, and I think that's the bit where, you know, if it hadn't have done that, then it would look like here's another lender dumping technology onto a market, thinking it knows what the answer is, not listening, and then being surprised when it falls flat. Well, we didn't do that.
I think that's really interesting what you mentioned around giving the user the ability to self-select at the beginning and say, hey, you know, actually, I do want this to be looked at by a human. This case is of a type where, you know, I want that certainty of a credit-back decision. That's something that came through the process of, you know, assuming nothing really, prototyping ideas, going to a lab in the first couple of weeks, testing those. I think that was, you know, interesting journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, when it's interesting because you sort of go, things have gone full circle, because you go back to what was the vision that we had when we set up the bank. We used the idea of bridging, which was tailoring and personalization and putting control in the hands of customers as the kind of those were the founding principles of Masthaven as a bank. We took that into our savings market because we did the flexible term where savers could select the product that they wanted and make it personal to them, and then make it happen online. And in reality, what we've done is then take that back full circle and bring that digital aspect back into the bridging market, again, still allowing personalization and tailoring and self-control and self-service. And that's kind of, you know, it has gone full circle in terms of the our approach of, you know, it's the bridging approach that's fed the way in which we've become as a bank in terms of the methods, and now we've brought that technology back full circle to support the bridging market. So, you know, it's quite interesting, really.
Sounds good. So I guess, you know, you're a couple of months now into the journey of having that portal launch. Is there any lessons from the project that you think worth sharing, or?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You said it yourself. You know, we had it launched in October. I think it was October, wasn't it? We actually had it launched with some of our partners. We had actually did our testing quite a considerable period before that, and the testing showed that the intermediary website pretty much hit the money. You know, it was on the, you know, the testing, it went well, and the portal didn't. You know, it's not a million miles away, but it just missed the mark. And so, you know, in doing so, for me, if we hadn't have done that, we would have launched something that didn't work. And when we launched it in October, at the front end experience for our brokers, it was really good. The feedback immediately was positive. You know, there could have been a push, and there was a push at the time to go, well, let's get this to everybody. But our operational teams was just saying, look, the front end looks great, John, but actually, you know what, in terms of us being able to have the workflow so that we can keep on top of what the contacts are, to know what needs to be dealt with now, and what does the MI look like, to make sure we're on top of things and we can understand what's happening at the front end. We need to spend a bit of time working on that before you go, you know, put it out to everybody. So between October and January, we obviously went through that second phase. It would have been really easy to go, look, you know, we've developed this, let's get it out there. We're very excited. And we kind of went, no, you know, let's hold back. Let's do that bit, because that's what our operational team are saying. And if you don't get them believing in the solution, then actually you're not, you know, you're losing some of the hearts and minds. So that 2-month piece, if you could have, you know, the fact that we did take a little bit longer has meant that at the end of the day, you know, we've got a joined up connection there, and we're putting it out. I think, you know, we don't want to rest, you know, despite where we are at the moment in terms of, you know, we don't want to rest on this, and we want to think about what's the next phase of investment that we need to put into our lending products. And that's kind of where the thought processes are now. It's like, you know, these are good times to think, well, how are people going to change behavior after this? Because this is generational behavioral change that's going to come out of this. And we, we think we're well positioned, or certainly I feel that any digital human combination, it is well, if you understand the financial requirements of your market, are well positioned to really, really kind of think about how people want to interact with us going forward, and make sure that we can handle that.
This current situation that we're in, our new situation, has certainly put at the fore and highlighted those that had adopted digital platforms. I guess you guys being a challenger bank and not having all of the legacy of some existing players, you were able to leverage that by building out these new platforms. But I think it's certainly highlighted the difference in experience and how quickly you're able to adapt. I think certainly, I guess if we look forward for once this situations hopefully come back to some form of normality, one would hope that there are going to be some longer lasting changes and lessons learned from this. But maybe I'm an optimist, but
No, I think you and I both are. So I think it's great, and I think the other thing that we've had going on is within the website we integrated with Knowledge Bank, and I think I've been getting daily updates from all of the sourcing systems that show all of the changes that are going on in the market. If you didn't have that type of connected communication, I think as a broker you'd be going, there is nowhere to go, because it all feels like how do I keep in touch with what's happening? And I think though, if you have a single source, I think it's important to kind of have a single source that you trust. Not try and kind of look everywhere, otherwise you'll just kind of lose, but have a single place where you trust, and it will keep you up to date. And I think that's the important piece as well, that you kind of got to know what's changing out there when it's a really rapid environment, because your customers, our brokers, their clients, their customers, our savers, they want us to, they'll want to know what's happening, and it's important you maintain that communication as well.
I'm guessing the idea there was to utilize the Knowledge Bank API, plug it into your website, so that all of your lending criteria changes that you're communicating with Knowledge Bank and other platforms similar, automatically appear on your website. So I'd imagine at the time we kind of built justification that that's going to save you time in maintenance and having a single source of truth. But I imagine this is a period more than most, I guess, where you've seen the value of that, where a lot of updates to market, etc.
Yes,
I think filtering through. So that actually dovetails on nicely. Thinking about the future, so I'm conscious of I had a certain amount of time booked in your diary. So if we look at think about the future, then. So I guess there's the kind of your low-hanging fruit in terms of digitization. You're automating decisions on kind of simpler cases, enabling a broker not have to read key data multiple times. That's stuff that the lending sector is actually a few years behind, but I think it's starting to catch up, and you guys are pushing at the forefront of that now. Thinking a bit further into the future, are there any technologies and other sectors or use cases that you see out there that think could be applied, or any new technology that?
Yeah, I mean, some of them, as you say, to a degree, what we're doing is equalizing across our business. So we use WhoYou as an identity document management in terms of passports and identity verification in our savings side, and it's worked well to make sure that in conjunction with our electronic verification using Equifax and Experian with WhoYou, then we're able to kind of have a high success rate in terms of onboarding savings. So what you do is you go, maybe the bridging market, or I know that other firms have used some of this, but we're translating it across. So you just go, okay, let's use that over there. We've used automated valuation in mortgages. Well, let's use it. We know their confidence level. Let's use it for bridging, tailored slightly to those markets. Digital mail rooms. We use a fulfillment, in terms of the communication that we do with our savings customers. Everything is digitally dispatched. Let's make sure we do that on our lending side as well. So in a way, it's a great way for everything to be equalized across. Let's accelerate some of those things across your business. I think the other side of it, thinking a bit bigger, is it is clearly the integration with the sourcing systems, and with it needs to be deeper, and into our broker communication, so that there's no break points in that process. But fundamentally, I think that firms that are digitally enabled need to have a very deep analytical understanding of their customers, and then need to understand the financial benefits that you can bring to those customers through that analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that whilst we are, we very much are a specialist organization in terms of the lending markets that we work within, I think that what we're getting through this is a deeper understanding of the analytics of what works and what doesn't work within those lending markets, and an understanding how you might kind of use that in the future is something you were accelerating through this period. So it's really important to get good handle on your data, and turn that data into information and intelligence, and then act upon it. And I think this is a great time to test some of those, some of those analytical models that you have, and some of those those data collection points that you have, all of the data points, bring them together, and then act on them for the good of the customer. And I think that type of thought process will get accelerated.
So it sounds like in terms of AVMs and digital ID, actually, that those are kind of, I guess, maybe fall into the low-hanging fruit, sort of slightly obvious things that could improve the journey for, and particularly around digital ID. The fact that the user has to give paper-based ID often still now to different stages again and again throughout the journey is quite an annoyance. So I think that's exciting. That's coming down the way reasonably soon. So I think in terms of other new technology, there was a lot of talk and excitement and a big push from government as well, actually, around open banking the last couple of years. I think it's fair to say the adoption from the consumers has maybe been a little slower than people initially expected. Where do you see open banking fitting into the kind of future model, particularly around how lenders could plug into that?
Yeah, so I think there's clearly, there's two legs in my view. There's the verification process. So at a very simple level, in the current climate, how difficult is it to get some of those verification if you're relying on paper, if you're relying on it's just not easy to do. In the moment, it's impossible to do, really, and actually, never mind in normal times, it's inefficient. So there clearly is that verification piece, which you're right. As a person that's going through a process, you need to adopt it. You need to opt in to open banking. You need to be prepared to open yourselves up, and if you can kind of have that explained to you what benefit that will give, then adoption rates are clearly only going to improve, and I think currently you'd see that improving also. And then it's about at the front end in terms of giving control to customers to actually, if they want to use the technology and the kind of open architecture to kind of be more in control of their own investing and borrowing decisions, I think on a platform that actually works for them, then I think that's the other part where you get to see, today I want to kind of have my financial world look a bit like this, but actually I want to know what I can do, and day to day I want it to be much more easy to go from to flip around and go, actually I want to put I want my borrowing or my savings world or my investing world or my insurance world, I just want it to look a bit different. And I think open banking allows that access to those solutions, but I think it's not just about having a platform and a very kind of narrow set of financial benefits. I think it goes deeper than that. I think it's a given that you've got the kind of commoditized kind of platform that you can do it on. You can have it in lots of different ways, but I think it's about making sure that from a financial perspective that actually there's a real benefit that I can get, and it may well be more practical for me to have my borrowing or my investing looking a bit like this today, but actually something's changed, I need to flip it to look like that. And that's where open banking allows product choice and more easy movement of of your financial decisions that you're in control of, that you don't rely on somebody else to do for you.
Yes, I guess your kind of flexible product model in savings would probably fit that world.
It would fit that world, yeah. But I think there's so many more ways in kind of borrowing or investing that it can actually work for as well.
Cool. So yeah, I'm conscious of time, and I think that was really an interesting discussion from my perspective. So maybe we'll end there for today. So thanks a lot for your time, Jon. Hopefully, in the next hopefully we can rebook that lunch or grab a beer in the summer or late summer when we get
Well, we
vaccinated.
can have a beer over this, but it's not quite the same, is it?
Okay, yeah. Good stuff. Well, appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, John. And
Pleasure, Mark, and catch up soon. Look after yourself, yeah?
catch you too. Bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye.